somebody please do a 3D full open world survival adventure Oregon Trail.
Yes. I want that.
Yeah.
That'd be
That'll
great.
be great.
Yeah.
It'll be terrible.
Alex, let's talk a little bit about gaming past.
Sure. Which past? Which games?
That's a good question. I was going to say that I was going to talk about games that I remember playing back when I was but a littlein. I don't know if you remember.
Mad.
That was a long time ago when I was a littlein. I remember playing card games. That was like the big thing for me once upon a time.
Oh
Cards.
yeah, back before these thing-dangled video games.
Yeah, well, even when I had video games, because I would learn how to play Hearts from Mom, and Dad taught me how to play cribbage, and then there was, of course, like Mancala, some good old classics.
Sounds like your parents just needed someone to play games with.
Pretty much. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason I'm alive. I do remember playing my original system, and this was my original system at least, was the NES.
Ah, nice. Yes.
Where I came in.
See, technically also the NES, despite being a bit younger than you are. I have 2 older sisters.
Right.
So we had an NES, and then I went from the NES to a PlayStation 2.
Now, see, I went to friends' houses beforehand.
Oh, okay.
And when I would go to my friends' houses, they had the Atari 2600. And the Atari 2600 had, like, the Pac-Man and all of that good stuff. But, besides the Pac-Man, I don't really remember a lot of the stuff that was on the Atari. We didn't play a lot.
Fine.
Yeah. The controls were interesting. You remember the joystick?
Yeah, just the joystick.
And the 2 buttons. It's pretty simple. But anyway, NES, though, classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Super Mario Brothers.
Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt. Where you just hold the gun against the screen.
The light gun. Yeah.
Yep.
That was like the first time that you could actually do that with the light gun. That was great.
The light gun was pretty cool. You would just hold it up against the screen and click, 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 click.
That was great. That's actually one of those technologies that I'm kind of surprised didn't get more play outside of arcades afterward.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
I guess VR kind of utilizes some of that, but not the same kind of technology. And considering it was like the 80s, it's pretty impressive stuff. They also had that Robbie the Robot.
Yes. I was going to say, Nathan, while we're talking about games of the past and whatnot, what was the first video game that you, remember, playing and being like, wow, this is great?
Oh, man. Well, obviously the stuff that was...
Yes. First game. It doesn't have to be a video game.
Doesn't have to be a video game. Okay. Well, I would say that if it was a tabletop game, I do remember liking Monopoly, for the reason that I really did want to be like a landlord. Look at all of the stuff that I get, build out my hotels. Of course, now knowing more of the rule set, I'm kind of like going, oh, I probably wasn't playing this right.
Yeah.
Nor was anyone.
My sisters would always cheat at Monopoly, so...
how do you cheat at Monopoly?
Well, I would have to go to the bathroom or something, get up and leave the room, and they'd just steal money.
Oh, they would just take money. Yeah.
They would just be like, yoink.
That seems like the most Monopoly thing to do anyway.
It really does.
Yeah. But, besides that, I remember Mancala. Great classic game. I would play Parcheesi. That's always a great one.
Trivial Pursuit was always a big one in my family.
Oh yeah, Trivial Pursuit. That's always a great. That's a good one.
It's a little outdated now.
It was outdated at the time. I think the problem that I had was that the Trivial Pursuit questions that they had that were out of the box would make sense to people who were of an older generation. But I had no idea what it was. You had to get the junior cards or something for me to even reference anything. That was part of it. But in terms of the video games, I mean, obviously the ones that were out of the gate for me for the NES, that would have been the Super Mario Duck Hunt combination. And while I like the technology of Duck Hunt, I do remember, like, Super Mario was a little bit more iconic for me. What I really remember, though, is that after I got the Duck Hunt and the Super Mario, like, my parents probably played more Super Mario than I did. Like they'd be up late at night, like, kind of going, "Ooh, we got to stage 3 or something." While I was asleep, they would talk about it. So I think that by the time I really got around to actually playing something, it was probably like Super Mario 3. I think by the time 3 came out, that was really the
best of the 3 Super Mario games.
You got the overworld, you could actually move around the board, there were power-ups that were really cool, yeah. You got the Tanuki suit, that was, that was...
I played some of that, because I did have the NES, but I actually got a, like, computer, probably around when it was Windows 95.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my parents had got me, I think one of the guys my mom worked with had helped and got a computer. So my first video game on computer was actually Command & Conquer Red Alert.
Oh.
So that game holds a lot of nostalgia for me. And so when they remastered it recently and they did it with the old graphics and new graphics, and they actually got some of the old people that worked on it from Westwood to work on it, that work at, I think, Petroglyph now. They formed a new company after EA bought it. I was like, oh, I'm getting this.
Right.
So, yeah, my earlier games are like Nintendo and then like Command & Conquer Red Alert.
Right. When I got my computer, the first computer, I had an old, like, Power Mac once upon a time. And I remember, even before that, I'm going way back, I had a Tandy. Remember the Tandies where you had CDOS commands that you would put into it? Yes. There were some games loaded on that were not good. They were not great.
I don't remember what my parents had, but they had one of the old MS-DOS computers too, way back when. So we definitely had some floating 3.5A and 5.5 inch floppies that had some of the shitty text-based games on there, and I'd try to play those, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me, because, like, back in that day, too, in school, they would have the old computers that took the big floppy disks.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember a few things from that. There was, like, Math Muncher. Do you remember the Muncher games where you had the little Muncher that would have to go around and you'd have to, like, munch the correct equations and stuff like that?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Are we going to consider, like, Typing Tutor as a game?
Probably not. I'd prefer not to. Unless it's like Steam. Typing of the Dead. that might count. Although, one thing that does stand out that I remember we did have in school was Oregon Trail.
Yes. I think that was 5th grade that we had to play that when we were learning about the Oregon Trail.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of great that they actually had those in school, because that was actually like a fun game.
Yeah, and now we have games like the Oregon Trail.
Yes. Because we've grown up and become cynical now. But, yes. I saw a t-shirt one time that I liked a lot that was called, You Have Died of Dysentery and Velociraptors. And it had the Velociraptors on. I think it was like Jurassic Trail.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about I've Died of Dysentery Raptors?
Dysenteraptors? I like that.
Dysenteraptors,
yeah. Somebody's got to make that game. We need a full 3D remake of Oregon Trail that does that where you're in the sea.
You know what we actually do need, now that you're saying this, we've got a lot of games like Greedfall and stuff that come out.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody please do a 3D full open world survival adventure Oregon Trail.
Yes. I want that.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
It'll be terrible.
It would be terrible, yeah.
But it'll be fantastic.
It would be, yeah. That's the game that we all want. Not the mobile inspired ones that I've seen lately. So, Please, please, yes. Give me the survival game that is just the Oregon Trail. If somebody's not working on that, I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed. When I got my computer, though, like an actual computer, actually one of the first games that I had was probably, like, Deus Ex, but, I remember once upon a time when they had shareware. And so a lot of the old games that I used to play beforehand were from, like, Ambrosia Software or from Spiderweb Software. That would be, like, the old classic CRPGs or, like, Escape Velocity, some of the ones that were outgrowths of the arcade games, because they didn't really go to arcades very much.
They kind of went out of style.
Yeah, they hit their peak in, like, the early 80s, and that's when I was born. So,
there you go.
Yeah. Been to some arcades, but that was much later. Much later. And for what you get for prizes and tickets, I probably not really worth it. But good for anybody who was playing it. Sometimes I would see Brick out at, like, pizza parlors and stuff like that. That was fun. But, yeah, I mean, the first games that really grabbed me, like, my real attention would have probably been something like Escape Velocity, that was from Ambrosia, Baldur's Gate, like the original Baldur's Gate, when that had originally come out, and, Deus Ex, which at the time ran so incredibly slowly that I was basically just waiting for about 10 minutes between loading screens, where I'd just be like, well, I'm gonna go someplace and then come back. Which is why it became like a benchmark game for me after that, where it's like every time I got a new computer, how well does Deus Ex run on this? And so
too well.
So now, when I bought the new one, I was just fascinated with the fact that it now runs so quickly that you actually have to get a mod because it doesn't function properly if you don't mod it out. It just, like, I got to the point where it runs so quickly on the old version of Deus Ex that you run immediately from point A to point B while all the dialogue stacks up on top of each other because it doesn't expect it to run that quickly, and it becomes practically, like, even when I was crouching, like, you press the button just a little bit forward, like the W key just to go a little bit forward, and you go halfway across the screen, and it becomes unplayable, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I was fascinated by that, but, I would love to do it when I was like, oh, cool, I got a new computer, I get to play Deus Ex again, and then it's fascinating to see the level of technology go through, where it's like, oh, I get the 3rd generation iMac instead of the 1st generation, now I only wait 5 minutes, now I only wait 2 minutes. The spirit of gaming past wants me to ask you, out of, like, the games that you played 10 plus years ago, what are the ones that you'd want to go back and play today?
Oh, man. Well, I did mention Command & Conquer: Red Alert. They did the remaster, so I have it. I've played a little bit of it and just not touched it since because I haven't had the energy.
Yeah.
I mean, Pokemon, again, I played a bunch of that, teens, on the original Game Boy. Sorry, I had a Game Boy Pocket back then. So Pokemon's Yellow and Blue. Sorry, first one I got was actually Yellow version, the one where you actually get Ash's Pikachu and Team Rocket is Jesse and James.
Yes.
And then I had Red and Blue and Silver, so those are great, and those are still nostalgic to go back and play now with emulators, or I still have the physical cartridges, so I can do that. Games I would still go back and play. I would like to see a newer version of, like, Legacy of Kain. That's when I played teenage years. Again, that's over a decade ago, so that qualifies.
Right.
Those are great. Those are fun. I'd like to see a remaster because they're a bit dated at this point.
You reminded me, too, that my first handheld system was the original Game Boy, the brick.
Yes.
And that was given to me by my Aunt Carmen, who's unfortunately no longer with us. But Carmen had gotten obsessed with Tetris on that system, and to the point where then she showed me, and I was playing Tetris, and she said, "You know what? It's probably better if you have this because I can't stop playing it. So you take the system. It's yours now." And so from there, I played things like Pokemon and everything past that. But yeah, Tetris is still a pretty addictive one to play. Surprisingly enough, actually, the ones that I go back to are still like some of the Fallout games, because it's kind of scary to think, but like Fallout 3 was back in 2008. Knights of the Old Republic was like 2004. Fable. I've gone back to play Fable and some of those other games, and those were back in the early 2000s. In terms of what I found though that is kind of interesting is that games that came out in like the 90s are very difficult to play for me now, when they used to be real simple. Like, they used to be real easy. One, because I'm not used to the controls anymore, but they become so outdated that it's kind of hard to... we've gotten very used to the modern conveniences of gaming. Yeah. And so going back to it is tricky.
Well, I did that when I played the Diablo 2 remaster. Whatever they called it.
Resurrected,
thank you. When I played that, and I was like, okay, they updated the graphics, but they kept the gameplay very much the same, and it was just, wow, this is still cool like I remember, but also some of these little inconveniences are really annoying, where in a modern landscape, that wouldn't be an issue.
Can you conceive of the fact that we played, like, for hundreds of hours in Diablo 2, knowing the controls? I remember going over to my friend's house, and he would have Diablo 2, and we would sit there. It's a single-player thing. We can't both play, but we'd be sitting there together at the computer for hours on end, playing Diablo, and we'd play online. And then the other one that we played that I can't play today is Morrowind. Like, we would sit there for entire days. Like, he'd come over at the very beginning of the day, and Danny and I would sit there until nighttime, like 12-hour days, tooling around in Morrowind. I can't do it now.
No.
Because the framework of Morrowind doesn't work for me anymore. I can't go through those logbooks trying to figure out what the hint was. The system doesn't work now, and it's amazing to think that once upon a time, when we were younger, we had more patience and tolerance for this than I do now, for the way the games were built. I can't do it anymore. I suppose that's something that gets lost over the course of time, is just your ability. Maybe because we just have so many other things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis that
maybe.
Like once upon a time when they told me that there was a game that was like hundreds of hours long that you could get immersed in, I was like, cool. Now I think, ugh.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, excellent. Now it's like, ugh.
I don't have the time for this.
This is going to be like, with as much
growing
time
up
as I...
sucks.
Growing up sucks.
All going through this memory lane of Christmas, of nostalgia of games past shows me that growing up sucks.
Well, you know what though, Alex? We're going to be visited by another ghost in a second.
Hopefully my own. I'm done with this.
We're going to be visited by another ghost, and we're going to be talking about stuff we like in the present.